This is Adonis's
Abu.
Victor.
case analysis of the gruesome murder of Carlo Triani. In August 10th of 1984, Carlo Triani was gruesomely murdered by Mark Schultz in a murder fire planned by his own wife, Laura Triani. A little bit of backstory of how he got murdered. Laura Triani managed to persuade 5 Marines, Russell Sanders, Kevin Watkins, Mark Schultz, Jeffrey Miser, and Russell Harrison, to lure Carlo to a remote area and proceed to run him over and shoot him twice, and leave him for dead. Mark Schultz was the shooter. He shot him once in the back and once in the head, once in the neck, which was his killing blow. Laura claimed that she was having car trouble in the middle of the night, and Carlo, the man that he was, came to help his wife, but he didn't expect to take his last grasp of the air. It took the court a full 3 years to finally convict Laura of first-degree murder, but she eventually got her released back in 2022. Laura's early life was not normal at all. She was neglected by her parents, her mom and dad. Her dad was drunk and he was sent to prison for attempted murder of his neighbor. Laura's mom was a full-time narcissist. She never cared about her children. She always wanted to do her own things, either watch TV or just be a narcissist. I believe her rough lifestyle played a major role into her violent acts today, but I also believe that she possessed a criminal gene to make her more like vulnerable, susceptible to commit violent acts. Laura was also pregnant at the age of 17 when she had her first kid by an unnamed man, but that's the time where she also found Carlo and he decided to accept her and take her in as one of his own. They eventually got married in August 1979, but it was never really a marriage according to everybody that they knew. Laura was highly unfaithful. She slept with his best man at his wedding. She often slept with multiple men, even when he was there. She just didn't care, didn't respect Carlo for the man that he was. She also made it publicly known that she wanted to kill her husband, or she wanted to find ways to her husband die to people, which was very odd, but no one really paid any mind to it. The witnesses were like I said stated before, the 5 Marines, which called themselves the Gremlins, and
Now going on the issue of the police officers as well as the investigation. Some of the people involved in the investigation, Officer John Brommer, as well as the Oceanside Police Department. There were a lot of first responders like Detective Ed Jacobs, Bob George, that immediately got on the investigation. There was a lot of things done well, a lot of things done wrong, a lot of things they definitely could have done better and improved on, like how they gathered their forensic evidence and coordinated with the different agencies of the military. Some of the things they did wrong was definitely the witness interviews, like how they went about securing different information and stuff like that. They didn't really align most of the witness statements with they didn't really connect all the stuff and really kind of correlate things together. They definitely could have enhanced the reliability of some of the testimonies if they would have looked into them more. The communication between the military and the police department was also out of whack, and that also, just threw things off course. Definitely could have sped up the investigation, but overall, Jacob and George's comprehensive investigation methods actually did end up solving the case. So at the end of the day, That's all that matters. So, yeah. She initially, now getting into the details of her involvement in some of her statements of Laura. She originally actually tried to deny any and all involvement. She was claiming things like she was abducted and forced to lure her husband to the crime scene and get him killed. And when she even finally did admit to it, she then tried to say stuff like it was already too far deep in the plan. She wanted to turn back, kind of trying to pull away from trying to take the fault away from her, not really owning up to her actions.
And another one of her claims was that she was taken a hold by 5 men on 2 motorcycles, which is kind of crazy to think about this. We're not in a circus, so I don't understand how she would even think of 5 men on 2 motorcycles.
Yeah, she had a lot of contradictive statements. Her story didn't really line up. That's why in the end she was accused of guilty. But yeah, she tried to even deny her. She tried to even say she was in an abusive relationship, and that's what kind of coerced her in that direction. Whole bunch of excuses. Now into some of the mitigating, aggravating facts of the case. It definitely was a planned murder, even as much as she tried to deny it. It definitely was a planned murder. She had many times she was the one who bought the gun, bought the bullets. She was the only one old enough to even do it, so...
They were all the 4 Marines were all under the age of 21.
Yeah, so she was the only one even able to do it, so that's all on her.
Also, Laura attempted to murder him twice before, but those plans didn't work out.
Yeah. It took Carlo even 20 minutes for him to even arrive, so she had plenty of times to call back her actions, but she just continued to go on and go on. So that's kind of more and more evidence on why this is a premeditated murder.
She also had the time to not tap the brakes when he eventually arrived. She's the one that initiated the ambush. She is the one that told them. She's the one that brought everybody into that single spot. She's the one that manipulated the minds of the 5 Marines. Even though they're boys, there is a fact known that women tend to have better developed brains than males, and even though they're all younger than the age of 25, I believe she manipulated them into committing a heinous act.
Alright, I'm gonna go to question 7. The concept of premeditated murder is central to this case. Why was the defendant Giuliani not sentenced to death? When looking at the facts, you must play every big role into it. You must play into gender. First, she is a woman. Women aren't as likely to get the death penalty. It's not as common. Next, looking at where she lives at. For example, the state of California, exactly where they live, is a place where they're not keen on the death penalty. They're Californians, that's what you know. They're not really keen on it. Her history, her criminal history is not really a lot. And when saying abuse, so abuse being brought up in this case, downplayed and helped her not getting the death sentence, as well as the other ones.
She got her released in 2022 because she claimed abuse from her family. She wasn't raised right, so being that, which is true, she was never raised in a normal way. She was raised in a horrible way that wouldn't want to wish anybody on, but that doesn't explain her and justify her facts of murdering another human being.
How about the 5 co-defendants? What eventually happened to all 6? The 5 co-defendants, we talked about each role they had and yeah. The first role, Mark Schwartz, he was the shooter. He's the one who killed Carlo Treviani. And what ended up happening to him, he pled guilty to first degree, sentenced to life in prison. the possibility of parole. He avoided the death penalty, and I'll go to the next one. But he was in the Favos prison before being transferred out of state. Russell Harrison, present at the murder, pled guilty to first degree and helped in planning. He was sentenced to 26 years in prison, but paroled in 2011 after serving about 23 years.
Long time.
Jeffrey Meiser pled guilty to first degree. Exact sentence and parole status are not publicly detailed, but was released at 2013 at the age of 50. Russell Sanders took part in the conspiracy at the war, pled guilty to murder, sentenced to 25 years in prison. No confirmed police records about the parole or status. And Kevin Watkins participated in the planning. He was not there. He was tried separately in Ventura County. His charges were acquitted. And for Mrs. Treviani, she's pled guilty in 2019. She also did have a possibility, but ended up going away because of her keen insight and not having any remorse. What lessons did you learn from working this class? Some of the things that I mainly learned from this class was the role of where you are, what state you're in, the biases of gender play a huge role, the political climate, sub areas where you are, how police departments engage each other, how police conduct is with investigating this stuff. Let me learn a lot more about these government agencies and how things go on trial, how these things affect everything. Finally, in your team's opinion, what do you think really happened on the night of North Rivers on Oceanside? What I think is all the planning was true. She planned it all, wanted to kill him. Her motive, clearly insurance and infidelity. But I think what happened was this was just hasty planning. Like, there was really no need to run the person over. If I'm being honest, like, why would you run them over? You understand? If they weren't really professionals. This was a haste act, and that's all I gotta say.
Do I believe that Carlo got his justice? Is no, because she's released and she didn't receive any help for her actions. Yeah, she spent time in jail, but like I stated before, I believe there's a criminal gene. There's a whole types of different genes in the world, and I believe that she possessed a criminal gene on top of her rough environment lifestyle, which led her to do an heinous act, like I stated before. I believe that she should receive mental help instead of just being released on parole. As for the 5 Marines, I believe they shouldn't deserve life in prison. For one, they're all under the age of 25 when the time of the murder happened. So they were young and dumb. They were easily manipulated by a woman that was a known manipulator and was very proficient in what she had done. Do I believe that they should have received jail time? Yes, because they still had to think about murdering an individual that they didn't even know. That's another kind of weird thing that Carlo and Mark Schultz, the Russells, Jeffrey, they were never connected. They barely knew each other. So it's kind of crazy to me that they were just okay for killing a guy for $600. Anything else? Alright, and that's our case analysis.
Yeah.